Hi everybody and welcome to Linux Fundamentals Part 1. Let's begin. Welcome to the first part of the Linux Fundamentals Room series. You're most likely using a Windows or Mac machine. Both are different in visual design and how they operate. Just like Windows, iOS and macOS, Linux is just another operating system and one of the most popular in the world, powering smart cars, Android devices, supercomputers, home appliances, enterprise servers, and more. We'll be covering some of the history behind Linux and then eventually starting your journey of being a Linux wizard. This room will have you running your very first commands in an interactive Linux machine in your browser, teaching you some essential commands used to interact with the file system, and introduce you to how users and groups work on Linux and what this means for us as penetration testers. Okay, and here we only need to click on complete it because there's no question. So there you go. And now let's move on to the next task, which is a bit of background on Linux. Okay. Where is Linux used? It's fair to say that Linux is a lot more intimidating to approach than operating systems such as Windows. Both variants have their own advantages and disadvantages. For example, Linux is considerably much more lightweight, and you'd be surprised to know that there is a good chance you've used Linux in some form or another every day. Linux powers things such as websites that you visit, car entertainment, control panels, point-of-sale systems such as checkout tills and registers in shops, and critical infrastructures such as traffic light controllers or industrial sensors. Flavors of Linux. The name Linux is actually an umbrella term for multiple OSs that are based on Unix, another operating system. Thanks to Unix being open source, variants of Linux comes in all shapes and sizes, suited best for what the system is being used for. For example, Ubuntu and Debian are some of the more commonplace distributions of Linux because it is so extensible. For example, you can run Ubuntu as a server, such as for websites and web application, or as a fully fledged desktop. For this series, we're going to be using Ubuntu. Similar to how you have different versions of Windows, like Windows 7, 8, and 10, there are many different versions or distributions of Linux. And now let's answer the question. And I already did the research, by the way, so that I don't waste time of the video, and the answer is 1991. Okay, so let's type that in, submit, and let's move on to the next task, which is interacting with your first Linux machine. This room has a Ubuntu Linux machine that you can interact with all within your browser whilst following along with this room's material. However, to get started, simply press the green Start Machine button on the top right of this task, indicated by the arrow on the right. Once deployed, a card will appear at the top of the room. This contains all of the information for the machine deployed in the room, including the IP address and expiry timer, along with buttons to manage the machine. Remember to terminate a machine once you're done with the room. More information on this can be found in the tutorial room. For now, press Start Machine, where you'll be able to interact with your own Linux machine within your browser whilst following along with this room. Okay, so let's deploy the Linux machine by clicking on the Start Machine button. There you go. And we can click on Complete it right here. And now let's move on to the next task, which is running your first few commands. As we previously discussed, a large selling point of using OSs such as Ubuntu is how lightweight they can be. This, of course, doesn't come without its disadvantages, where, for example, often there is no GUI or GUI, which stands for Graphical User Interface, or what is known as a desktop environment that we can use to interact with the machine, unless it has been installed. A large part of interacting with these systems is using the terminal. The terminal is purely text-based and it's intimidating at first. However, if we break down some of the commands, after some time you quickly become familiar with using the terminal. We need to be able to do basic functions like navigate to files, output their contents, and make files. The commands to do so are self-explanatory, once you know what they are, of course. Let's get started with two of the first commands, which I have broken down in the table below. Okay, so the first command is the echo command, which we use to output any text that we provide. And then we have the whoami command, which is used to find out what user we are currently logged in as. And now we can see the snippets below for an example of each command being used, right? Okay, so let's try the commands ourselves before we answer the questions. Okay, so let's begin with the echo command. So we type in echo and we have the double quotes, and inside the double quotes we type in hello friend, like this, and let's see, there you go, here's our output, hello friend. Perfect. Okay, let's try the other one. So we type in who am I, and we see that we are TryHackMe, or we are logged in as TryHackMe. Okay, so now let's answer the questions. Okay, if we wanted to output the text TryHackMe, what would our command be? And that would be echo TryHackMe. So let's type that in. And we submit. And by the way, keep in mind that since there is no space between the words here, we don't need the double quotes, while when we wanted to output hello friend, we use double quotes because there was space between the words hello and friend. Okay, so now let's see, what is the username of who you're logged in as on your deployed Linux machine? And we already found out who we are logged in as, and we are logged in as TryHackMe. So let's type that in, TryHackMe, and we submit, and there you go. Okay, so now let's move on to the next task, which is interacting with the file system. So far, we've only covered the echo and whoami commands. Not all that useful when you consider things that we need to do, including navigating the file system, read and write to it as well. In this task, we're going to be learning the commands so that we can do just that. Just like the previous task, I'll display the commands in the table in the next heading and show examples of these commands being used. Interacting with the file system. As I previously stated, being able to navigate the machine that you're logged into without relying on a desktop environment is pretty important. After all, what's the point of logging in if we can't go anywhere? Okay, so the first command is the listing command. Then we have the change directory command. Then we have the concatenate command. And then we have the print working directory command. Listing files in our current directory. Before we can do anything such as finding out the contents of any files or folders, we need to know what exists in the first place. This can be done using the ls command, short for listing. And we can see an example right here, right? In the screenshot above, we can see there are the following directories or folders. Important files, my documents, notes, and pictures. Great, you can probably take a guess to what to expect a folder to contain given by its name. Pro tip, you can list the contents of a directory without having to navigate to it by using ls and the name of the directory, like the example we see right here. Changing our current directory. Now that we know what folders exist, we need to use the cd command, short for change directory, to change to that directory. So if I wanted to open the pictures directory, I would type in cd pictures, where again we want to find out the contents of this pictures directory, and to do so we'd use the ls command again, like this, like what we see in the example. In this case, it looks like there are 4 pictures of dogs. That's correct. Whilst knowing about the existence of files is great, it's not all that useful unless we're able to view the contents of them. We will come on to discuss some of the tools available to us that allows us to transfer files from one machine to another in a later room. But for now, we're going to talk about simply seeing the contents of text files using a command called cat. Cat is short for concatenating and is a fantastic way for us to output the contents of files, and not just text files. In the screenshot below, you can see how I have combined the use of ls to list the files within a directory called documents. And yes, we can see that. We've applied some knowledge from earlier in this task to do the following. First, used the listing command to let us know what files are available in the documents folder of this machine. In this case, it's called todo.txt. Second, we have then used the cat command on the text file, on the to-do text file, to concatenate or output the contents of this file, where the contents are, here is something important for me to do later, just like we can, see right here. Pro tip, you can use cat to output the contents of a file within directories without having to navigate to it by using cat and the name of the directory, like in the example that we see right here. Sometimes things like username, passwords, yes, really, flags or configuration settings are stored within files where cat can be used to retrieve these. Finding out the full path to our current working directory. You notice as you progress through navigating your Linux machine, the name of the directory that you're currently working in will be listed in your terminal. It's easy to lose track of where we are on the file system exactly, which is why I want to introduce the pwd command. This stands for print working directory. Using the example machine from before, we're currently in the documents folder. But where is this exactly on the Linux machine's file system? We can find this out using the pwd command, like within the screenshot below. Okay, we can see it right here. Okay, and now let's break this down. We already know we are in the documents folder thanks to our terminal, but at this point in time we have no idea where the documents folder is stored so that we can get back to it easily in the future. I've used the pwd command or print working directory command to find the full file path of this documents folder. And we are helpfully told by Linux that this documents directory is stored right here on the machine. Great to know. Now in the future, if we find ourselves in a different location, we can just use the cd command or current directory command like this to change our working directory to this documents directory. Okay, and now let's answer the questions. On the Linux machine that you deployed, how many folders are there? Okay, let's go back inside and find out. Let's see. Okay, so the way we can find out how many folders we have here in the machine, the Linux machine that we have deployed, we can simply type ls. And there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4 folders. Okay, so let's type in 4 right here and submit. And move on to the next question, which is which directory contains a file? And now here we can use the ls command again with the name of each folder. But since I already finished the room a while ago, I already know which folder contains a file, and that is folder 4. But let's run the ls command with folder 4 just to see this in action. Okay, so we type in ls and then folder 4 and we click on enter, and there you go. We have a text file called note. Okay, so let's type in folder 4 here and move on to the next question. What is the contents of this file? Okay, and again, this is pretty easy to find out. To see the contents of the file in this directory, we use the cat command like this. So we type in cat and then folder 4 /note.txt. Okay, and we click on enter, and there you go. This is the contents of the file. A string, the string hello world. Okay, so let's type that in. And we submit. There you go. And now the last question here. Use the cd command to navigate to this file and find out the new current working directory. What is the path? Okay, so first we type in cd and then folder 4 like this. And the next thing we need to do to find the path to the current working directory, we type in pwd. Okay, and there is our answer. Okay, so let's copy that and paste it right here and submit, and there you go. Okay, now let's move on to the next task, which is searching for files. Although it doesn't seem like it so far, one of the redeeming features of Linux is truly how efficient you can be with it. With that said, you can only be as efficient as you are familiar with it, of course. As you interact with OSs such as Ubuntu over time, essential commands like those we've already covered will start to become muscle memory. One fantastic way to show just how efficient you can be with systems like this is using a set of commands to quickly search for files across the entire system that our user has access to. No need to consistently use cd and ls to find out what is where. Instead, we can use commands such as find to automate things like this for us. This is where Linux starts to become a bit more intimidating to approach, but we'll break this down and ease you into it. Using find. The find command is fantastic in the sense that it can be used both very simply or rather complex depending upon what it is you want to do exactly. In fact, so much so, we have an entire room dedicated to using and practicing the find command. However, let's stick to the fundamentals first. Take the snippet below. We can see a list of directories available to us. Yes, that's correct. So we have desktop, we have documents, we have pictures, and we have folder 1. Now, of course, directories can contain even more directories within themselves. It becomes a headache when we are having to look through every single one just to try and look for specific files. We can use find to do just this for us. Let's start simple and assume that we already know the name of the file we're looking for, but can't remember where it is exactly. In this case, we're looking for passwords.txt. If we remember the file name, we can simply use the find command like this, where the command will look through every folder in our current directory for that specific file like so. And here's an example. Find has managed to find the file. It turns out it's located in folder 1. Sweet. But let's say that we don't know the name of the file or want to search for every file that has an extension such as .txt. We can simply use what's known as a wildcard to search for anything that has .txt at the end. In our case, we want to find every text file that's in our current directory. We will construct a command such as the one that we see right here, where find has been able to find every text file and has given us the location of each one, like in the example right here. So, find has managed to find passwords.txt located within folder 1 and to-do.txt located within documents. Using grep. Another great utility that is great one to learn about is the use of grep. The grep command allows us to search the contents of files for specific values that we are looking for. Take for example the access log of a web server. In this case, the access.log file of a web server has 244 entries. Using a command like cat isn't going to cut it too well here. Let's say, for example, if we wanted to search this log file to see the things that a certain user or IP address visited. Looking through 244 entries isn't all that efficient considering we want to find a specific value. We can use grep to search the entire contents of this file for any entries of the value that we're searching for. Going with the example of a web server's access log, we want to see everything that the IP address that we see right here has visited. Note that this is fictional. And here we have an example. Grep has searched through this file and has shown us any entries of what we've provided and that is contained within this log file for the IP. Okay, and now let's answer the questions. Use grep on access.log to find a flag that has a prefix of THM. What is the flag? Okay, let's find out. Let's see. So what we need to do here to find the find out what the flag is, we just type in grep, right? And then we have the double quotes. And inside the quotes, the double quotes, we type in THM and then we type in access.log and we click on enter and there is our answer, right? Right here. So let's copy that and paste it in. Copy and we paste it in right here like this and we submit and there you go. And now here we, and I still haven't found out what I'm looking for. Okay, so we can just click on completed right here and move on to the next task, which is an introduction to shell operators. Linux operators are a fantastic way to power up your knowledge of working with Linux. There are a few important operators that are worth noting. We'll cover the basics and break them down accordingly to bite-sized chunks. At an overview, I'm going to be showcasing the following operators. First, we have the background operator. This operator allows you to run commands in the background of your terminal. Then we have the AND operator. This operator allows you to combine multiple commands together in one line of your terminal. And then we have the output redirector operator. This operator is a redirector, meaning that we can take the output from a command, such as using cat to output a file, and direct it elsewhere. And finally, we have the appending operator. This operator does the same function of the output redirector operator, but appends the output rather than replacing, meaning nothing is overwritten. Okay, let's cover these in a bit more detail. Okay, so the background operator. This operator allows us to execute commands in the background. For example, let's say we want to copy a large file. This will obviously take quite a long time and will leave us unable to do anything else until the file successfully copies. The background shell operator allows us to execute a command and have it run in the background, allowing us to do other things. Then we have the AND operator. This shell operator is a bit misleading in sense of how familiar it is to its partner, the background operator. Unlike the background operator, we can use the AND operator to make a list of commands to run. For example, command 1 and command 2. However, it's worth noting that command 2 will only run if command 1 was successful. Okay, and then we have the output redirector operator. This operator is what's known as an output redirector. What this essentially means is that we take the output from a command we run and send that output to somewhere else. A great example of this is redirecting the output of the echo command that we learned in task 4. Of course, running something such as echo howdy will return howdy back to our terminal. That isn't super useful. What we can do instead is redirect howdy to something such as a new file. Let's say we wanted to create a file named welcome with the message hey. We can run a command like the one that we see right here, where we want the file created with the contents hey. And we can see an example of that right here, right? Note, if the file that is welcome already exists, the contents will be overwritten. Okay, and now let's read about the appending operator. This operator is also an output redirector like in the previous operator we discussed. However, what makes this operator different is that rather than overriding any contents within a file, for example, it instead just puts the output at the end. Following on with our previous example where we have the file welcome that has the contents of hey. If we're to use echo to add hello to the file using the output redirector operator, the file will now only have hello and not hey. The appending operator allows to append the output to the bottom of the file rather than replacing the contents, and we can see an example right here, right? And now let's answer the questions. If we wanted to run a command in the background, what operator would we want to use? And that will be the background operator. Submit. If I wanted to replace the contents of a file named passwords with the word passwords123, what would my command be? And that will be echo password 123, of course, let's not forget that. Then we use the output redirector operator, and then passwords like this, and we submit, and we are correct. Perfect. Okay, and now if I wanted to add TryHackMe to this file named passwords, but also keep passwords123, what would my command be? Okay, that will be echo TryHackMe, and then we use the appending operator, and then passwords. And then we submit, and we are correct once again. Okay, now use the deployed Linux machine to put these into practice. Okay, no problem. So let's go back inside the machine. Okay, so let's begin with the pwd command. So pwd. Okay, so this is our current directory where we are at right now. So let's list. Let's see what kind of files we have inside this directory. So we use the listing command. Okay, so we have 4 folders. Okay, so let's go inside folder number 4. So for that we type in cd folder 4. There you go. Now we have moved inside folder 4. Let's list the files inside folder 4. So we use the listing command once again. Okay, so we have one file, note.txt. Okay, now let's replace the contents of the note text file with the word ethical, for example. Okay, and so what we need to do is type in echo. Let's see, echo, and then we type in ethical. Oops. Like this. Okay. And then we use the output redirector operator. And then we type in note.txt. Okay. And let's see. There you go. And now let's see the contents of the file with the cat command like this. So we type in cat and then note and then .txt. And here's our contents right now, ethical, right? Okay, now let's add hacker to the note text file like this. So we type in echo and then we type hacker, right? The word that we would like to add. And then we use the appending operator. So like this, and then we type in note.text and we press enter. Okay, and again, let's see the contents of the note text file by using the cat command. So cat and then note.text, and we press on enter, and there you go, ethical hacker. Perfect. Okay, so now let's click on complete it and move on to the next task, which is conclusions and summaries. Nice work on getting to this stage. We covered quite a bit for your first interactions with Linux. However, these are the most essential functions you're going to be using whenever you interact with a Linux machine. I hope this room hasn't been too daunting for you to power on through with. It's as I previously mentioned, you're going to become familiar with these things very quickly because of how often you're going to be using them. To quickly recap, we've covered the following: understanding why Linux is so commonplace today, interacting with your first ever Linux machine, ran some of the most fundamental commands, had an introduction to navigating around the file system and how we can use commands like find and grep to make finding data even more efficient, and power up your commands by learning about some of the important shell operators. Take some time to have a play around in this room. When you feel a little bit more comfortable, progress on to Linux Fundamentals Part 2. Okay, and yeah, there's no question here. So you guys, yeah, you can play around by yourselves. You don't need me. You don't need me for that. So let me just continue and finish this room. Let's see, because I don't think there's anything else here. No, so we can just terminate the machine first. We can just click on the terminate button right here, click on complete it, and then click on complete it right here. And we are done with this room. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you give the video a thumbs up. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos on TryHackMe. Okay, everybody, talk to you next time.